Okay, so get this. Google just handed its AI chatbot, Gemini, the
Yeah.
keys to the kingdom, and we're diving into what that means for all of us.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard of it yet, Gemini is basically Google's answer to AI assistants,
Right?
and this upgrade is causing a major stir.
For sure.
So we're basing our deep dive today on a really interesting article
Okay.
by AI expert John Anthony DeSoto
Right.
over at techradar.com.
Cool.
And he really doesn't hold back on the potential of all of this, or the
Right.
questions this raises.
Yeah, I mean, it's a development that really puts a spotlight on just how fast this technology is moving.
Absolutely.
And you know what it could mean for all of us down the line.
Totally. So
Yeah.
what exactly has everyone buzzing about this?
Well, basically, Gemini can now tap directly into your Google search history.
Oh, wow.
Not just look at it,
Uh-huh.
but actually use it to give you responses
Okay.
that are tailored to you.
So it's not just about remembering, my favorite coffee order or something.
Right. This is way beyond that.
Okay.
Imagine like planning a trip with Gemini,
All right.
and it's scanning your past searches
Okay.
for, say, family vacations,
Mm-hmm.
your interest in history, or even just, your love of trying new foods.
Yeah, okay.
And based on all that, it could suggest something
Like what?
completely off your radar, but perfect for you,
Oh, wow.
based on what it's learned about you.
From my own searches.
Exactly.
The article uses that vacation example, and it clicked for me.
Yeah.
It's not just about convenience.
Yeah.
It's like having an AI travel agent
Mhm.
who knows me better than I know myself.
Totally. But let's step back for a second.
Okay.
Why is this such a big deal in the AI world?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, why are people freaking out?
Yeah.
Because no other AI has this kind of access
Suku?
to Google's data.
Oh, I see.
Think about it. Google is the go-to for like billions of people?
Right?
The sheer volume of data they have from
Yeah.
searches is,
Gotta be massive.
it's staggering.
Yeah.
And now Gemini can learn from all of it.
Wow.
It's an advantage no one else can match.
So it's not just that Gemini is getting smarter. It's
No.
getting smarter in a way that's like completely unique.
Exactly, like Google gave it a cheat sheet for human behavior.
That is a great way to put it.
And the author calls Gemini the personal context king for a reason.
Ooh, I love that phrase, personal context king.
Yeah.
And as someone who, loves to learn and explore new ideas, this is exciting, but maybe a little unsettling too.
For sure.
Like, do we really want an AI to know us that well?
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
And one we need to unpack carefully.
Yeah.
The potential is incredible.
Right.
But so are the questions it raises about, how much we're willing to share
Yeah.
to get that personalization.
That's what I'm thinking too. It's one thing for Google to track our searches, but feeding all that data to an AI that learns and evolves,
Yeah.
that's a whole new ballgame.
Totally.
It's not just a record of what we've searched for anymore. It's
Uh-huh.
almost like a blueprint of our digital selves.
Right. And that blueprint is incredibly valuable,
Yeah.
both for the good it could do and the risks, if it's not handled responsibly.
So for all of our listeners out there, I think the big question is this level of personalization worth the potential trade-off?
It's a question that goes beyond individual choice, too.
In what way?
Imagine the implications for society as a whole.
Okay.
This technology could reshape how we interact with information, with each other, with the world around us.
And that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little daunting.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's break down what Google is actually doing to address the concerns a lot of people are going to have about all of this.
Right, because it's not like they're just throwing this out there without any safeguards.
Yeah.
They know about the potential issues, and they're taking steps
Okay.
to give users some control.
Okay, so let's talk about those safeguards.
Yeah.
First and foremost, is this opt-in or opt-out?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Because I think that's a major factor in how people will react to all of this.
It is, and thankfully it's opt-in.
Okay.
You have to specifically give Gemini permission
To access my search history.
to access your search history. It's not happening automatically.
Okay, that's good. At least users have a choice.
Right.
But what about control? After you've opted in, can you change your mind later?
You absolutely can. You can turn this feature off
Oh, okay.
at any time in your settings.
All right, so we've got the opt-in and the ability to toggle the feature on or off.
Right.
What other controls are there?
Well, another important point is that there are different versions of Gemini available.
Oh, okay.
Some of them are designed for tasks that don't need your personal information.
So if I'm not comfortable sharing my Search history, I can still use Gemini for other things.
Exactly.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's good to have options.
Yeah.
But I think at the heart of all of this is that tension
Uh-huh.
between wanting that ultimate personalized experience
Yeah.
and being wary of the privacy implications.
Absolutely. And it's not a simple equation.
Right.
There are a lot of factors to consider,
For sure.
and everyone will have to weigh those factors differently.
And that's where we need to start thinking about the bigger picture.
Right.
And that's what we'll get into in part 2 of this deep dive. But for now, I think it's safe to say that this new capability of Gemini's is a game changer.
It is.
And it raises a lot of questions about the future of AI and our relationship with technology.
It does indeed. And while the potential is exciting, we need to approach this thoughtfully and responsibly.
Absolutely.
And that starts with understanding what this all means
Yeah,
for ourselves and for society as a whole.
exactly. Welcome back. We just explored how Gemini can now use your Google search history to give you incredibly personalized responses.
Uh-huh.
It's a potential game changer, but it also has us asking some tough questions.
It really does. It challenges us to think about where we draw the line
Yeah.
between convenience and, control over our information.
Exactly. And, as we were talking about those safeguards Google has put in place,
Right.
it made me think even with the opt-in and the ability to toggle the feature,
Uh-huh.
there's still that feeling of giving up a piece of yourself, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like once that data is out there, even with good intentions, who knows what could happen down the line?
It's a really good point. It speaks to that larger anxiety about the unintended consequences of technology,
Right.
especially when it involves something as personal as our search history.
Exactly.
We're not just talking about, data points. We're talking about a window into our thoughts,
Yeah.
our curiosities, even our anxieties.
Right. What if this AI starts predicting our behavior better than we can ourselves?
That's a big one.
What happens when companies or even governments have access to that kind of insight?
It's a valid concern. I mean, the potential for misuse is definitely there.
Yeah.
We've seen how data can be used to manipulate people's opinions, target them with ads,
Right. Yeah.
even influence elections.
And it's not just about malicious actors either, even with the best intentions. There's that potential for bias to creep into these systems.
Absolutely.
If Gemini is learning from our search history, it's also inheriting our biases, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
Let's say, hypothetically,
Right.
your search history reveals a preference for certain types of news sources or opinions.
Yeah. Okay.
Gemini, in trying to be helpful and give you what it thinks you want,
Uh-huh.
might start filtering information in a way that reinforces those biases,
Oh, wow.
even if they're not accurate or fair.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Right.
You search for something, Gemini sees that search and tailors its responses accordingly, which then influences your future searches.
Exactly.
It could create these echo chambers where we're only exposed to information that confirms our existing beliefs.
And that's a real danger, especially in a world that's already struggling with misinformation and polarization.
So it's almost like a paradox. We want AI to be personalized, but not too personalized. Where's the balance between helpful customization and maintaining a broader perspective?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
I think the key is transparency and control.
Okay.
Users need to know what data is being used, how it's being used, and have the ability to easily adjust their settings
Yeah.
if they're not comfortable with the level of personalization.
And it can't just be a one-time opt-in either, right?
No, definitely not.
Our comfort levels and preferences change over time.
Of course.
We might be okay with sharing certain data today, but feel differently about it a year from now.
Absolutely. It needs to be an ongoing conversation,
Yeah?
both with ourselves and with the companies developing these technologies.
Right.
We need to be able to revisit those choices and adjust them as needed.
So if transparency and user control are key, what does that look like in practice? What would a truly responsible and ethical implementation of this technology look like?
Well, I think it starts with clear communication from Google.
Okay.
They need to be upfront about what data is being used, how it's being processed.
And what the potential implications are.
And this information needs to be presented in a way that's easy for everyone to understand.
Exactly. Not just tech experts.
Right, because let's be real, most people don't have the time or the expertise to wade through pages of technical jargon.
Yeah. It needs to be clear, concise, accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And I think it goes beyond just explaining how the technology works.
Okay.
Google also needs to be transparent about the algorithms they're using and the potential biases
Right.
that might exist within those algorithms.
That's a crucial point. It's not enough to just say, trust us, we've got this. They
Right.
need to be open about the limitations of the technology and the potential for things to go wrong.
Absolutely. And I think they also need to be proactive in addressing those
Yeah,
limitations.
great.
It's not just about mitigating potential harms. It's about actively working to make the technology better, fairer, and more inclusive.
I like that, yeah.
So it's a continuous process of improvement, not a one-and-done solution. Exactly. And that process needs to involve not just engineers and developers,
Right.
but also ethicists, social scientists, and people from diverse backgrounds.
That's a great point. We need to make sure that the people building these systems are representative of the people who will be using them.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we risk creating technologies that perpetuate existing inequalities.
Exactly. And it's not just about representation within the tech industry. We also need to make sure that the voices of users are being heard
Uh-huh.
and that their concerns are being addressed.
So how do we do that? How do we ensure that users have a seat at the table when these technologies are being developed?
Well, I think it starts with creating more opportunities for dialogue
Okay.
between tech companies and the public. We need more forums where people can ask questions,
Yeah.
share their concerns, and provide feedback.
So it's like a two-way street.
Exactly. It's not just about companies informing users.
Uh-huh.
It's about users informing companies.
And I think it also requires a shift in mindset on the part of tech companies. They need to move away from this idea that they're the sole arbiters of what's good for users.
Right.
And start listening more to the people who will be impacted by their technologies.
Absolutely. It's not just about building cool technology.
Yeah,
It's about building technology that serves humanity, not the other way around.
that's a powerful statement.
It requires a deep understanding of the social and ethical implications of these technologies.
Which is something that's often overlooked in the rush to innovate.
Unfortunately, yes.
So are you optimistic that we can strike that balance?
I am.
Can we create a future where AI is truly personalized and helpful without sacrificing our privacy or perpetuating existing inequalities?
It's a tough challenge,
Okay.
but I believe it's possible.
Okay.
It requires a commitment to transparency, accountability, and continuous dialogue
Yeah.
between tech companies, policymakers, and the public.
And it requires us as individuals to be informed and engaged,
Absolutely.
to ask tough questions, to demand better from the companies we interact with, and to use our voices to shape the future we want to see.
The future of AI is not predetermined. It's being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've spent this episode exploring Gemini, Google's AI chatbot, and its brand new ability to really leverage your Google search history
Right.
to give you like these hyper-personalized experiences.
Yeah, it's a fascinating development, but
Yeah,
it really brings up some big questions,
it does.
about that balance between like moving technology forward
Uh-huh.
and doing it responsibly.
Right. And, as we've been talking about all of this,
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to that phrase the author used,
Which one?
personal context king.
Oh, yeah,
It's catchy, but it also makes you think
for sure.
about how much power this tech could actually have.
Oh, yeah, it's powerful for sure. It really gets at that idea that AI,
Yeah,
especially one that has access to this huge amount of really personal data,
right.
could basically become like the ultimate curator of our digital lives.
Right. It knows everything.
It really does. It knows what we search for, what we click on, what we buy, what we read, even what we watch.
It's like having a digital twin
Yeah,
that's constantly learning and evolving right there with us.
it really is. And that makes you wonder,
Yeah.
if this AI knows us this well, could it start to influence us?
In ways we don't even realize.
Exactly. And that's a question we need to be asking.
Totally, because think about it.
Yeah.
Algorithms already shape so much of what we see online.
All the time, right?
Like what's in our news feeds, what products we're shown, who we connect with on social media.
It's all curated to some degree.
So now imagine that same level of influence, but amplified
Right.
by an AI that knows our preferences and behaviors even better.
It's almost like
What?
we're handing over the reins of our digital lives,
Wow.
letting this AI make decisions for us based on, what it thinks we want.
So we gain efficiency and like really tailored experiences,
Right.
but potentially at the cost of our own decision making.
Well, it's a trade-off for sure. And it goes beyond just our own choices too.
Yeah. How so?
Well, think about the bigger picture, like society as a whole.
Okay.
What happens when these technologies are everywhere and they start shaping our culture, our values, how we see the world?
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is, and it's important to remember we're still in the early stages of all of this.
Yeah.
What we're seeing with Gemini is just a small taste of what might be possible.
So what can we do about it?
Well, I think it starts with education.
Okay.
We need to understand how these technologies actually work,
Uh-huh.
what they can do, both the good and the bad, and
Right.
how they're impacting our lives already.
Because we can't just accept every new gadget or feature that comes out.
Exactly. We need to be informed,
Yeah.
asking questions and demanding transparency from the companies behind all of this.
And having these conversations,
Yeah.
not just in tech circles,
Right.
but everywhere.
Everywhere in our homes, our schools, with our families.
Yeah.
This affects everyone, so we all need to be a part of the conversation.
And it comes down to our own choices, too.
For sure.
Like, how much data am I okay with sharing?
Right.
How personalized do I want my online experience to be?
Exactly. Those are questions we all need to be asking ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the big takeaway is this.
What's that?
We're at a turning point. We have incredible technology
Yeah.
that could change everything, but we have to decide what that future looks like.
It's a future that's being written right now, and we all have a part to play in it.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Gemini and the future of AI. We hope this has given you some things to think about.
And we hope you'll continue to explore and ask questions about this technology.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep shaping the future you want to see.